Kiss one, marry one, kill one. Are you ready?
No.
Kiss one, marry one, kill one. Justin Bieber, Will Smith, Will Ferrell.
Oh,
Oh, what an interesting three. Decisions. Baby, you can't just be quiet. People are gonna
I'm thinking.
they're not gonna know that we're still on the podcast. They're gonna be looking at their phones being like, is this still on?
But what people need to understand is that I need time to
You
process.
need to think out loud. They can only hear your voice. They can't hear your thoughts.
They can hear my thoughts.
What's going on, you guys? While Tasha is thinking about the answer to my question, welcome to the Burn Fat Better podcast, where we have kiss one, marry one, kill one.
This is a good way to start.
It's a good way to start it.
Yeah.
We burn fat better. Around here, we earn our cookie because cookies are so much better when you earn them versus when you just eat them all the time. I promise we have some interesting stuff to talk about that you're going to get a lot of value out of as soon as Tasha answers the question.
Okay. I think kiss Justin Bieber,
Interesting.
marry Will Ferrell,
Okay.
and
Kill Will Smith.
I guess.
Dang. That is not the three I would have chosen.
What would your order?
No. We don't need to go that far. You want to do three
You would have
ones?
married Justin Bieber. There's no doubt in my mind. You would have married JB. He's your idol. You love him. You
say
would
that
marry him.
like I have a
instead
poster of him on the
me.
wall or something.
We do.
We do not. Do not tell people that.
We would
would
if
not.
it was up to
Listen,
you.
I had a crush on Justin Bieber far before we started dating. I never had a poster of him. Okay. Never.
Or that's what you say. That's what you tell
It's
people.
the truth. It's the truth. Oh God. Justin Bieber is my celebrity. Who's your celebrity crush?
I don't know. They've changed. It's like changes all the time.
Right now, current. Come on. You got to know it off the top of your
No,
top of your tip of
but
your
that's the
tongue.
thing is like, I don't.
Who was the last
You're
one?
my celebrity crush.
Oh, babe, that's such a cop out.
It is, yeah. It is.
All right, you guys. I am your host, your boy Roy. This is my superstar co-host, Mrs. Your Boy Roy.
I'm a co-host now?
I mean, if you're gonna be on here,
Okay.
how does one define so you're more than a guest? But you're not gonna be on all the podcasts. So
I'm your wife. That's all it is.
okay. My wife is here.
Yeah, my wife.
All right. I want to go over the biggest mistakes, the biggest mistakes people make when they're starting their fitness journey. So they started their fitness journey. What are the biggest mistakes? And I'm sure we'll go through a bunch of them, but if you could think of one right now, biggest mistake you see people make.
They quit.
I don't
Okay,
mean
but
to laugh.
let me-
I don't mean to laugh.
Let me explain.
That caught me off guard.
Let me
Okay.
explain. The biggest mistake I see more often than not is that people start working out or they start, working on this new specific nutrition plan or goal or whatever that is. And it gets hard for one day and they stop doing the thing. And they either stop doing it for a week or 2 weeks. And then they're like, oh, I got to get back at it because their body's sore or, life got busy, your kids throw you a curveball. I think that the biggest mistake people can make is that they don't get the ball rolling quickly in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to set that time aside and stick to it right at the beginning so you could get the ball rolling. Because if you start making excuses because your body's sore, those excuses will build on each other and build on each other and build on each
Well,
other.
the excuses never go away. And I have, oh God, like you just say these and I have so many things. And I do want to elaborate on what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, how do people overcome that? Like, how do they not
Mhm.
quit? But before we go into that, I do just want to say is that I feel like people quit because they put too much pressure on themselves because they
Yes.
expect perfection.
Right.
But the reason why they expect perfection is because they waited for a perfect condition to start. right? So you wait till January 1st, you wait till Monday, you wait till summer, you wait till the kids are either in school or out of school. Like you wait for this perfect time where you're actually motivated and you actually feel good to get started. And as soon as conditions aren't perfect, then you're like, oh, can't do it anymore.
Yep.
And I hear that a lot with time. Like I'm too busy right now. I'm too busy with work. I'm too busy with kids. Those are the two big things we hear. And I say, well, that's when you need to start, is when you're too busy. Because if you can make it work while you're busy and it's not perfect, then when things do get perfect, you already have the ball rolling, and then you can build off of the progress you've already made, right? And so I think you set up yourself for failure by waiting for the perfect time instead of just taking action. Like listen to the podcast, I need to take action and do the thing you know you need to be doing, right? So I guess my question for you is, let's say somebody did get started, right? And we're talking about all these different mistakes. You said the number one mistake or the big mistake you hear is that they quit, right? They have one bad day and they just stop doing it.
Yep.
So how do they avoid that happening? Because we know the bad days are going to happen. You know that we got to set this time aside, like you said, and we got to do this thing, but life is going to throw you a curveball. Kids are going to get sick or have functions at school, as I'm learning a lot about right now.
Yeah.
School does not care about my schedule at all.
Correct.
And so like, you're going to miss days, like you're going to have bad days. So
Yep.
like, what do you put in place to make sure you keep moving forward?
I think the people that you surround yourself by is the make or break for you. You're either going to have people that allow you to live on those excuses or the reason why you don't want to go in and support your decision to not show up for yourself, right? Those are your enablers. They're not going to push you to be your best self. Or you have a group of people or a coach or someone that surrounds you to remind you why you wanted to start in the first place, to keep you going.
Mhm.
And to remind you that this feeling that you're feeling of feeling overwhelmed or tired or too busy or whatever that is, it's only temporary and it's only going to last a minute. It's only going to last a couple weeks,
Mhm.
right? And if it lasts longer than that, well, at least you have people to help you through it. I think that that's the biggest mistake, is that people will come into this and think, oh, I'm just going to change their mind. Oh, we see it every year with New Year's resolutions, right? Like I'm going to change my whole life in a year, but they don't have people to help them. They don't talk about it. They're not open about the things that they want to fix and the reasons why they want to fix that. And they don't have good people in their corner to remind them why they started in the first place and why they should keep going,
Mhm.
you know, because it's really getting over that first hump of, this is hard and new and foreign and I don't understand it. And it's making me uncomfortable because I'm outside my comfort zone. That's where people quit, because it's, you know, we all like to live in our comfort zones. We don't like to live outside of that. And, you know, I'm speaking from personal experience there. I know what that feeling is like. And if I didn't have, you know, a core group of people that just constantly reminded me that I'm capable of what I initially said I wanted to do, I would quit too.
Yeah. Well, I think this is just opening up a whole can of worms. Like my
Yeah,
brain is going a million
I know.
miles per
This is
hour.
what happens with it.
And I think that the analogy that I think I know of and that I heard that best correlates with this is, let's say you buy a seed for a flower and you put the seed on the table and you give it plenty of sunlight and it doesn't grow. Do you blame the seed?
No.
What do you blame? You blame the environment. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
it doesn't have all of the right things. You say, okay, well, it needs soil. So you take the seed, you put it in soil and you give it plenty of sunlight and it still doesn't grow. Do you blame the seed and say it's no good?
No.
You blame the fact that it doesn't have water, right? It has to have all the things. It has to have the right environment for it to grow. And the issue is that what I think Tasha is saying is that for a lot of us is that we're putting ourselves in these environments and surrounding ourselves with the wrong people and not having the right accountability, to where you're not able to grow and live the life you want. And you keep blaming yourself instead of saying, okay, my environment isn't correct. And you need to shift that environment, right? I think you have a great story. I guess we both do, as far as like the environments we had in the past and how we had to fix that to
Yeah.
get to where we are.
Yeah. I mean, I am by nature a people pleaser. And I feel like, as with many young people, we get caught up in what we imagine life to be and not really what we and who we are at our core. And I think this could go on forever. I have so many things going on in my brain right now. I think the life that I live now, and I have said this to you, Roy, so many times, that the version of me you met was not the version of me that I was for almost 30 years of my life. And I think that there came a time where I needed to, it was like a come to Jesus moment, right? Like, it is time to change your life. You are a grown woman, you have 2 kids, and you're living a life that's not authentic to who you want to be and the kind of people that you want your kids to be growing up. And I really had to take like a deep, dark look at who I was and the choices I was making and who I was surrounding myself with. I had lived the party life for so long, that we work to make money and then we live to party and drink and be social and whatever. And for me, that really is truly not who I am at my core. I'm a very introverted person. So I used alcohol to get me out of my comfort zone and, kind of get me in that free spirited, like, oh, I can be around people all the time. I think if anyone here has worked in the restaurant industry, you know what I'm talking about. But that stemmed far beyond just my work life. It stemmed into my home life and what I was doing too. And I think there came a point where I was ready to be healthy, both mentally and physically and spiritually and emotionally and all of these things. I was ready to like be healthy in all of those areas. And I couldn't do it in the environment that I was in because these people were used to me being a certain version of me that I no longer wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to kind of let that version of me go a little bit. And with that meant letting a lot of those people go and understanding that, they can have a part of my life, but they're not going to help me get to where I want to get to. I'm trying to tread lightly because there's plenty of people that I still love dearly from that version of my life, but it just means that they play a different role in the life that I'm living now.
Well, I just think like, I don't know, the way I relate it is like before you have kids versus after you have kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just think like the people I hung out with in high school are not the same people I hung out with in college because college, I was growing more of who I wanted to be. I had a different friend group, right?
Right.
And then when, some of my friends started getting married and have kids and I didn't have kids, like we stopped hanging out as much because they were just in a different phase of their life that I wasn't in, right? When I decided to start Rough and start my business and people were still partying, like that was a new phase. And again, it's like nothing against these people, but I think that for a lot of people, just the environment you surround yourself with, you're really trying to live 2 lives, right? And I think it's one of the hardest parts of starting your journey is that you enjoy the life you have and you feel like you have to give it all up to live this new life, which we don't believe is true either. But at the same time, there's boundaries that I think need to be set, or if you are going to start working out and you are going to start eating healthy and you are going to become this better version of you, right? That you should have friends and environment in that group as well. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard because all your friends or your entire environment or your family is all used to this one version of you, right? And then you go and you start trying to be healthy and it's like, well, you don't have any friends in that space. And that makes it hard, right? Because you don't have that support system. And again, I mean, not to plug Rough or anything right here, but I think literally on the last podcast, we were just talking about why our community is so important, how judgment free we are. And like when people come in here, they immediately have that support system and people to lean on and people to talk to. Yeah. And I think that's why our success rate is just so high when people join the program, right? Because I think it gets rid of that first piece of like, you quit and there's nobody there to pick you up.
Absolutely. And you have people in your corner right away. I remember that feeling of feeling like I was alone because I was alone. I had made the choice to kind of go about this journey by myself, with the exception of like 1 or 2 people. But that first initial, like, I'm going to change my life is not, I mean, it's a challenge, you guys. And for those who do it and take that step and say, I'm going to finally do it and I'm going to stick with it. And if you actually really decide to do it, then you're going to have people in your life that push back. And that's just how it's going to be. And you're going to have to stay strong. And like Roy said, you're going to have to set boundaries and say, this is important to me. And this is the version of me that I know I need to become, not who I just want to become, but who I need to become. And it needs to become like everything that you embody, right? Like you have to start living that version of you. And it sounds so cliche when I say it, but it's just so true.
I think that's the answer to the people quit, is that
Yeah.
it has to become a part of your life. I think a lot of people are just doing this diet thing just to lose some weight. I'm going to keep living the life that I'm living. I'm not going to change anything
Right.
externally. I'm not going to change my environment. I'm just going to do this diet to lose weight. And then when it gets hard, then they quit. Or once they hit their goal weight, they go back to living their life and they gain all the weight back. I think that the answer to the problem of you quit and you stay down is it has to become a part of your life. And just like if partying is a part of your life, you have friends that like to party with you.
Right.
If working out and improving yourself and self-development is a part of your life, you have friends and you have accountability in that aspect. If you wanted to improve with your education, what do? You go to school, you go to college, you get a mentor, you get a teacher, right? You get something that is moving you forward and teaching you in life. Same thing. Like, why wouldn't you have a coach or a mentor or a teacher, or somebody that can guide you along the way? Like, have that guide there as well to show you the ropes. You would do that in anything else in life, right? So I think that's the answer to the question. So that was good. We did good for our first question. We elaborated really well. You who are listening right now got value out of this. And you're like, oh, I did get value. I'm going to share this podcast now. This is great.
That is great.
Wow. Okay. Number 2. What's the second thing, babe? We don't have any notes, you guys. We didn't even know we were going to talk about this. I told you that we're doing this Burn Fat Better podcast. It gives us a direction of what we're talking about, but we're just kind of like, we're doing this thing. I want to give you authentic Roy and Tasha. So we're doing this. What's the second biggest problem
that people run into when they start?
Yeah. When they're first getting started, or they're trying to do one thing. And you're like, oh, if you just wouldn't do that, then you probably get results faster or better.
You play the comparison game.
Mm.
You compare yourself to a version that you used to be.
Mm-hmm. I'm eating a Rice Krispie. I'm sorry. On the podcast.
You are doing that.
That's number 3, is people don't eat Rice Krispies.
I think that the comparison game is, or
you just ignored my Rice Krispie comment.
I did. Welcome to Married Life. So many times you see it, right? Like, oh, I used to do this and I used to be fit and I was, for me, I was a gymnast and I should be able to do all these things. And like, I'm comparing myself to a version that no longer exists. That version no longer exists. Like, we've outgrown that version. We've become someone different. We've, just like we just talked about, outgrowing friend groups in different phases of your life. That happens to us as people, and you cannot compare yourself to the collegiate athlete or the high school athlete or I just was fit just because I was a teenager. Right? Like, we have to stop comparing, and not only that, stop comparing to yourself, but stop comparing to the people around you. Like, social media makes it so hard for us to get outside of our own heads, but I think that's the biggest thing, is like, ego plays such a role in your progress if you don't get out of your own head. Like, stop comparing yourself. Stop thinking that you're, like, I don't know, gonna step into the gym and pull yourself into this miraculous fit life and just everything is going to be easy, because it's just not real.
Yeah. Well, I see that all the time. And the honest truth is that you can only have so many thoughts, and so many things can take your attention in a day, and it wears you out, right? Like, if you're thinking about, your nutrition plan, if you're planning ahead, if you're sitting down planning your meals for the week, when are you going to work out? What are you going to do for workouts? Like, you have all these things, but instead you're just tearing yourself down when it comes to fitness, and you're having a negative connotation because you're constantly comparing yourself to others. And we see it all the time, right? Like, wife compares themselves to husband. I hate to say this, but husband is just going to lose weight faster most of the time, right? It's just genetics, right? I see women compare themselves to the younger version of themselves before kids. Like, oh, well, before I had kids, this is how it worked. I'm like, your body has changed. Before menopause, after menopause, things change, right? High school you versus college you. Like, the way I think about it is, if I stayed up as late as I did when I was 21 years old and drank the way I did when I was 21 years old, it would not work well. Right. Like, at all. I would be dead for 2 days. It's just the truth.
That's the truth.
And so how can you sit here and say, and I felt like, honestly, I was in better shape when I was 21 than I am now. Yet my diet probably wasn't. I feel like I don't drink as much. When I was in college, I was probably drinking the most that I had been. And the truth is that just because I do better now and I was in better shape earlier doesn't mean that what I did back then actually worked. It just meant that maybe my metabolism was faster. Maybe my body adapted better or got rid of the toxins a lot easier, right? Like, My body is just slowing down, and now it's showing me what do I actually need to be doing to get these results. And I feel like the bigger issue is that you don't know other people's stories, right? You compare yourself to other people. And the truth
Mhm.
is that, listen, we're all dealt different cards, and some people's journey is harder. Welcome to life. Like it is. I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, if everybody eats this many calories and works out this many hours a day, we'll all lose weight at the same rate. It doesn't work that way. Some people, it just takes longer, and that's the name of the game. But comparing yourself to somebody else who loses weight faster doing the same exact program isn't going to help you lose weight any faster. That's just the truth, right? So yeah, I agree. I think it's a waste of time to be comparing yourself to others. It's just
Mhm.
it lives
It's a dead end,
it lives
guys.
rent free in your mind every single day. That one person that I know you think about every single day, and it's just tearing you up. You're like, oh, they must be so nice, but you don't know. Maybe they do work harder than you.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Well,
did. Maybe they didn't yo-yo diet as much as you did in the past. Like
it's my favorite is one of my favorite things is, you know, don't compare yourself to the person next to you, compare yourself to the version you were yesterday.
mhm,
Are you doing something different than you did the day before? Are you pushing yourself a little bit harder than maybe you did the day before? Are you showing up today, even though last week's version of you didn't show up?
mhm.
Right? Like it truly is about taking those baby steps and showing up for yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you. And if you are comparing yourself to, you know, Caroline, who's been at the gym for 17 years and you just stepped foot in the gym after not working out for a decade, of course you're going to feel, you know, if you're comparing yourself to her, she's got 17 years on you.
When I also see somebody like you walk into the gym and you'll compare yourself, and you guys started your journey at the same day and you did the same exact program and you're about the same, and this person just lost weight faster. And you're
Yeah.
like, but I'm working out harder than her, and I know I'm more strict and stuff.
Right.
First of all, again, that could just be life. Again, it's not going to help you lose weight any faster. But also, again, I love the idea of like, you don't know their history and you don't know what they got to be where they are. You guys might weigh the same. You might be on the same program. You might be doing the same amount of work. You might even be doing a little bit more work than them, but maybe you have been out of the game for 10 years, struggling and doing whatever you want and eating and not being on board. And they've only been struggling for 6 months. And although you are starting at the same place in the same weight and you're the same stature, maybe simply that just because they've only been overweight for 6 months, that their body's bouncing back a little quicker, right? That's a possibility as well. And like, you just don't know, right? And that's the point. You just can't compare yourself to others. I'm ready for point number 3,
Okay.
because I want to talk about nutrition.
Ah,
I think that's a huge one while I eat this Rice Krispie treat. We
okay.
could talk about carbs, but I want to talk about, just because I know you get this one a lot, is when
Mhm.
we set people's nutrition. This is the big thing that we're pushing on, the whole idea of burn fat better, on like how to fuel yourself and the idea of burning fat versus losing weight. And I want you to talk on this because I know that you've been having a lot of people like this and they struggle with the amount of food they eat.
Yes.
Eat my Rice
You
Krispie.
eat too little,
Mhm,
specifically. I would say out of 10 people, I probably have 7 or 8 out of 10 that eat too little.
mhm.
And I need to get them to learn how to eat more food. Especially because society says you eat less, 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 you'll lose weight.
Mhm.
You'll lose weight, you'll lose weight. And it's a very toxic culture, and it is what it is. And I think our main mission is to teach people that you have to be able to eat the right foods,
Eat the right foods.
eat the right foods to properly fuel your body so you can have energy to show up for yourself in the gym and for your kids and for so many things. So I think that is, you're right, that is a huge one. It is, you know, properly fueling your body.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I just see it all the time. And it's just so hard for people because, again, like with society, that's what we're taught is eat less and move more and you'll lose weight. And then the people who are probably listening to this podcast are still struggling to lose weight. And it's like, well, I have to eat less. I'm like, well, at what point do you realize that eating 900 calories a day, you're still struggling to lose weight and you don't look any better and you don't feel any better? Like, at what point do you realize, like, oh crap, like this isn't working. Like, what are you gonna do? Start eating 800, eating 700, like, and then you just create a terrible relationship with your food too. Like we see
Yeah.
that all the time as well. And it's just this cascade of negative events. You slow down your metabolism. You're still struggling with your weight. You're still struggling with your body image.
I think that I'm just going to touch on something a little bit more, because what you just said is it slows down your metabolism, you guys. Your body goes into starvation mode and will start to store whatever you eat as fat.
Mhm.
If you're eating too little, it jacks up your hormones and things in your body, and then it's hard to come out of that. So if you're one of those people that's like, I'm not eating anything, or I'm just not hungry, pay attention to that, because that's your body telling you like something's not right. You should get hungry throughout the day. You should wake up hungry. You should want to eat food. Okay. This is one of those things, like we are meant to be eating. And I think we could do a whole 2-hour long podcast about nutrition.
We're about to do 2-hour podcast right now. We don't have that kind of time.
But I think that is one of the biggest things when it comes to just specifically nutrition that I see, is trying to change the mindset that you don't need to eat less than 1,000 calories a day to lose weight.
Mhm.
Your body needs that fuel to function properly. When you are just sitting there sedentary, doing nothing, absolutely nothing, your body burns at least 1,200 calories.
Mhm.
Just doing nothing all day. If I just sat on the couch, didn't even stand up, just being alive.
Yep. And I think that for a lot of people too, the issue is like when you have to understand that your metabolism slows down, because the idea is that we eat less and you have to get the energy from somewhere. So you're going to be burning the fat.
Right.
But what you don't understand is that there's different energy systems and there's different ways to get the energy. And if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you're eating that little, you're not eating enough protein on a regular basis, which means that when you do lose weight, you're losing muscle mass. And so you're storing fat, using muscle as energy, and your body doesn't want to do that. And then it's messing up your hormones, your metabolism. And then you're tired all the time. You're cranky. You're still
Mhm.
storing fat. You don't look any different. It's like, you just feel in this rut, right? And then again, when we go back to, the whole comparison thing, right? So many of you guys have done that. And now we have to get you out of that and refix your hormones and refix your metabolism and reteach your body. And that takes time to do. And most people don't want to invest the time that it takes to do this the right way.
Mhm.
And they feel like they have to get all the results in a month, 2 months, 3 months, or it doesn't work. I'm like, you've been trying to do this for 10 years. If you simply would just like stick to it for 2 years, then you'd already be there by now. And you'd have the last 8 years just living your best life. But instead you continue to just try to cut calories and eat really little. And you've been now struggling for 10 years. And it's like, well, at what point does that change? And you just realize that the fastest way to do this is the long-term game plan, right? Is
Mhm.
the slower plan is the faster plan to do things the right way and fuel yourself.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And I think it has so much more to do than just the weight loss too, right? Like this is obviously, we are talking about burning fat, but if you eat enough food, you start to notice your brain starts functioning better. That's, I think, my most favorite thing, when people are like,
have energy.
oh, I'm able to think my thoughts.
Yeah.
Like the brain fog has lifted because you're properly fueling your brain.
Mhm.
Your brain is getting the energy it needs to function at optimum level.
Yeah.
So then you can think better, and you can get yourself out of that like mental fog of, I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to do this. And, it really all comes together once you guys fuel yourself properly. Food is medicine at the end of the day.
Mhm.
It is meant to be medicine. It is meant to heal your bodies. It is meant to give you energy. It's meant to help you. It's just, without it, we would die, right? So I think giving yourself too little of something, we all know that drinking more water is good for you. Eating enough food is also important. So, yeah.
Yes. I have 2 other things, but I'm going to let you guys go, and we're going to save it for another podcast, because I tend to just say everything all in one podcast, and then I feel like I have nothing to say in future podcasts. So
Okay.
we're going to let you guys go. I hope you love these 3 tips. Let's recap real quick. Tip number 1 was that people quit too soon because they don't have the right environment.
Yep.
Number 2 was Don't compare yourself to
Don't
others.
compare yourself. Yeah.
And number 3 is you're probably eating too little. You're not fueling yourself. Those are the,
Yep.
I don't want to say the top 3, but 3 big tips as to why people
3 big things we see all the time.
that people
Yeah.
do incorrectly or they're doing wrong and they need to fix when they're starting their fitness journey to make this a lifestyle and move in the right direction. Okay. Whenever I have you here, we have to finish with one crazy question. Last time, I think I asked you what our favorite dessert was. This time, I'm going to ask, what is your favorite movie? Favorite movie?
Oh, we just asked this the other day
Mhm.
and I didn't have an answer.
You got to think of it. Do you know mine?
Ooh, The Greatest Showman is yours.
The Greatest Showman is my favorite
It
movie.
is a fantastic movie.
Upon popular belief, you would think it's an Avengers movie, which I do love the Avengers, but just there's something about The Greatest Showman. I think it was my expectation, right? Like I was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
a musical. This is gonna be, I can't believe I have to sit through this stupid movie. And it blew my mind.
But it's all about the things you love most.
It is.
Business and love.
That is my love and business.
Oh, yeah,
My
yeah,
2
yeah.
favorite things.
My favorite movie.
Come on, babe. The people got to know.
Toy Story.
Really?
That's
The
always a
first one?
that's always a favorite.
The first one?
The first
I'm gonna
one.
be honest with you. The scene when what's the little kid's name? Not Andy, the other kid, when they're at the next door neighbor's house. And like
I'm like my
the
brain
thing
is
crawls
shut-
from under the
yeah,
bed.
and
It
the
gives me
dog.
the creeps. I don't.
Mhm.
It made me not like that
What
movie.
is his
so
name?
much.
Oh, that's gonna make me mad now. It's like when you look at someone in the face and you forget
If
their
you're watching
name.
on YouTube, comment below. So we're not going to Google it until you comment below, and then we'll know the answer. You have to resist Googling it now until somebody comments.
What is it? It's like a 5-letter name that I can think.
So is that your favorite movie? Is that what you're sticking with?
I'm gonna stick with that one because it's like I think my longest
Favorite movie?
favorite movie. Like I was obsessed with that movie
You
as
want
a
to know
kid.
longest favorite movie? The Notebook.
Is it?
I love The Notebook. It's the greatest love story.
Mhm.
They died together. They're in love.
I really like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
You do like that one. That is the truth.
I'm a chick flick person. I like the chick flicks.
Listen, there's only enough room in this relationship for one person who loves chick flick,
No,
and that's me.
we watch them together.
That is the truth. We were made for each other. All right, enough about this, you guys. Just remember, we don't pray for an easy life.
We earn a rough one.
Let's go earn some cookies, because as I said earlier, cookies are so much better when you earn them versus when you just eat them all the time. We will see you in the next podcast later. I don't know why I did that with my hands. I don't know what to do with my hands. This podcast.
Yeah. I know.